There are theories abroad in the times in which we live that more or less have post-millennial implications and are, in their own words, optimistic with regard to the future of the Reformed faith here upon earth. They look for the kingdom to be realized in this present world, and they consider it the call of every Christian, especially those, they say, of Calvinistic bent, to go out into the world and labor with might and with main for the advancement of the kingdom and the conquering of society for Christ. When those of my children who attended Calvin College were working towards their A.B. degree, I think that probably I and these children spent more hours, sometimes into the early morning, discussing this dreadful and what I consider to be dangerous view. The instruction in these things was given subtly, and yet it was impressed upon the minds of these students and of my children. You aren't even a Calvinist in the truest and fullest sense of the word if you do not spend your life and your adulthood to make this world a better place to live and to realize the kingdom of Christ in all aspects and institutions of society. It was subtle. It was persuasive. It was something against which my children had to do battle. Calvin claimed to be preparing soldiers of the cross for the great and mighty conquest of the institutions of society here on this earth. Nevertheless, although the insidiousness of it found in the Reformed faith comes as something of a surprise, perhaps, evolutionism has fine-tuned this idea. Atheistic evolutionism has fine-tuned this whole idea. Many years ago, I read a book by the great Roman Catholic paleontologist Pierre de Chardin, who wrote a book entitled The Omega Point. He was a passionate Roman Catholic. He was a very, very gifted paleontologist. He did his work at the beginning of what I would call the genetic revolution, when genetics was becoming the most popular science. It was in its infancy, but he was a visionary, and he saw the possibilities of the knowledge that man would acquire of the genetic makeup of man. And he developed this thesis in that book, a powerful thesis, a scary thesis that I have never forgotten. It was, in brief, this: now that man is beginning his search of the genetic structure of a man himself, he will find that he is able to manipulate the genetic structure of all living things, plants and animals and man himself. Which means, he said, that there would come a time in the not too distant future when man could himself get his hands on to manipulate the evolutionary processes which explain the existence of the world today. Up to this time, he said, evolutionism has been a matter of chance. only those genetic mutations that enabled one who inherited them to survive best in his environment would remain alive. These things took millions and millions, if not billions and billions of years. But, he said, and you could almost see the glow in his eye, but he said, the time has come when man can himself control the evolutionary processes and manipulate them to his own liking and produce species of mankind and of plants and of animals, all living things, that become more and more perfect. And then he said the time would come, and this was the concluding chapter, the time would come when man, through genetic manipulation, would succeed in so improving the lot of mankind and this creation that he would become himself God. He said that in so many words. He didn't need God for evolutionary processes, but it was the fulfillment of Satan's lie in paradise. Thou shalt be as God. His book was on the list of banned books in the Roman Catholic Church for a number of years. But after his death, that book was removed from the banned books and was reading that was available to all Roman Catholics. Obviously meaning, of course, that the Roman Catholic Church officially condoned and approved of his viewpoint. That is the kingdom of Christ with a vengeance, far beyond the silly dreams of post-millennialism. Against all these views, the scriptures do not just simply tell us what is wrong with them, although they do that in the clearest possible language, but they set over against that doctrine of the betterment of mankind and the growing perfection of the creation, the doctrine of the organic development of sin. It is the direct opposite of what wicked man teaches. And let me say this, it grieves me that you will find such nonsense as postmillennialism in Reformed circles, because as I was listening to what my children were telling me, what they were taught, it became very obvious that this presentation of history was spiritually dangerous. The vision of a better world here in this present creation, the dream of the Reformed faith governing the whole life of mankind and the institutions of society, was so pressed home by these professors that there was no possibility of changing their minds. And they filled students with the same enthusiasm for their dream of a better world yet to come. The unshakable conviction that this world was destined for better things reminded me that when the kingdom of Antichrist comes, and a far better world is indeed a reality, that the people of God, if they look for a bright and glowing future, will be deceived and will identify the kingdom of Christ with the kingdom of Antichrist, which will mean, of course, their destruction.